All right, I hit the record. Okay, I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I am going to get started, and as people join us, we'll just let them in. I did change the agenda slightly because there was one thing I definitely wanted to add, and I had to change the order of things because of Lori's schedule. So right after we approve the minutes from the last meeting, I'm going to have Lori talk about the upcoming academic diagnostics. And I also added an open forum for concerns for SLT. It's kind of hard at times trying to figure out all the things we should be talking about. So I'm just going to leave like an open space for us to bring up any topic of concern. First thing, just a formality, the minutes from the last meeting, they have been posted on the website for the last month. I do apologize. I was going to send it to all of you last week, but that's when Pupil Path went out on the fritz, and I still can't send any attachments via Pupil Path. That's something that we'll bring up to the company's attention. But that being said, I don't know if people took a look at the minutes or didn't, but I'm just going to ask a very simple question. Does anyone object to us changing the status of last month's minutes from draft to final? If anyone objects, just let me know. If not, we'll just assume it's approved. Okie dokie then, minutes are approved. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Lori. We do have some upcoming diagnostics that I wanted SLT to be aware of, and also a field test that we have been so generously volunteered for by the federal government. So, Lori, I'm going to turn it over to you. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't remember the last time we spoke about when we were talking about the two different diagnostics from MAP and Admentum. But just to repeat, if we didn't say it, we will not have to do both diagnostics. We were able to use the MAP and sync it with Admentum Learning Path. So that's a relief as far as giving too many tests. The second diagnostic in math will be the last week in January and followed by ELA that following week, so that kids are not getting double tested in both classes. And so hopefully in February's meeting in SLT, we'll be able to give a status on the data reports from the first to the second, and hopefully we see some growth. As far as I forgot the name of the
NAEP.
That's the NAEP test for the 8th graders. I believe there were about 50 selected, not by me, students in the 8th grade to take the NAEP exam, which is either at ELA or math. I didn't get to choose who took it. I didn't get to choose which test they got to take. I don't even believe we proctor it. It's a 2-hour exam. Students and parents were emailed before Pupil Path went down. It's if a student and or parent decides that they do not want to take it, they would have to email me to let me know.
And Lori, no, we don't proctor.
We do not proctor. Accommodations for IEPs will be given because I had about a 2-hour meeting with them going through each and every one IP, and it was not pleasant. But in any case, I have some students and parents that opted out, and I still have a few that didn't either answer me at all. So I'm not sure if they read emails or not. I know I asked some teachers in the 8th grade to tell the students about the test. It's in March. There'll be an afternoon session and a morning session. And again, I didn't get to choose either one.
Explain to everyone, what is this exam?
I believe it's a field test. We will not get any results of any sorts.
It's the federal exam.
Right, but it's not for any grading on the kids' point. there are any questions, I hope I could answer them.
No questions for Lori about these exams? Okie dokie then.
Okay.
Okay, I did want to spend some time talking about the budget. When the Department of Education made the decision to hold schools harmless for budget for register loss, and what that means is a school is given an allotment of money. We project how many students are going to be in any given school, and schools are given money accordingly. If a school has more students than that projection, then the school gets money sometime in February to make up for what they should have had compared to what they actually got. In terms of schools that have less students than what was projected, schools give back money to the Department of Education I guess, in essence, paying them, back for the students that they gave money for that did not materialize. Now, we had a potential substantial loss with regards to our budget. Our sixth grade ended up being smaller than past years. So instead of giving back the money, we had all this money to spend. And one of the things that we did, and we've done so far, is the first four, in addition to all the other little things that we have purchased, but the major purchases have been, we purchased new iPads for all of the math classrooms. And we purchased brand new MacBooks for all of the humanities classrooms. Now, in terms of the supply chain, I'm not sure when these devices are going to be here in the building. We're anticipating them getting here by the end of the year, end of this school year. And I thought it was important with this extra money that we had, because we didn't have to give it back to the DOE. I thought it would be important to upgrade all of our devices. In the past, when we got these devices, we bought them over over about a 3-year period, because it was just not possible for us to buy them all in one shot. We had a number of local politicians who gave us political money, resume money to buy technology, and every year we kept adding to our stockpile of technology. But this is going to be an opportunity of taking all of those devices and upgrading them all in one shot. Typically, the devices last us a really good amount of time, about 4 to 5 years of really solid work. So in essence, we're upgrading our computer systems for our classrooms for the next 4 to 5 years. So that was the major purpose, the major purchase, excuse me. We also purchased more support for our website. For the past few years, we've been using a web design company to help us with the website. Lori has been educated immensely on the website, and she's able to do a lot of the things that are being done on the website. But we do need a level of expertise that's beyond us. So we have been contracting this person's services for the past few years. I just allocated some money to buy more hours of support, which will take us into the rest of this year and into the next school year. So we're banking some hours with this company. So that was another substantial purchase. And today I finalized the purchasing of the yearbooks for the 8th graders. So all of the cap and gowns and all of the yearbooks, all the senior monies have been paid for by the school itself. The cap and gown measurements for 8th graders, I believe, is happening this month or next month. Lori, do you remember the date?
I know it's in the calendar in 310 and don't know.
Okay, well, it's going to be happening soon. So we are going to have all of the students measured for their cap and gowns, and later in the year, we're going to work with the PA to see with those cap and gowns, having the eighth graders have their pictures taken again with their cap and gowns, because we didn't want students sharing cap and gowns for the photos this year like we do in past years. So that's something that we're going to try and set up. Now, in terms of what's to be purchased, I still haven't issued the contract with the Peace Institute to work with the staff on the restorative justice program here. Between the holidays and the director of the program at the Peace Institute coming down with COVID, and then me subsequently about 2 weeks ago coming down with COVID, it's just our schedules have not been meshing. So we're going to finalize that with them. And we're going to be getting support for our facilitators for the equity team, both the Youth Equity Congress and for the main team, training on how to facilitate these meetings, and also working with the staff on restorative justice. So that's an expense yet to be taken care of. Started the process of ordering books for classroom libraries. Some of the teachers have been giving me a list of titles. And I know every year around this time, and Angela, you're out there, you hear me saying this, we're going to have to start getting book lists together for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade humanities classrooms, because I do want to increase the number of books that we have. And so if you could talk to your department about that, possibly maybe working with the equity team in terms of looking at classroom libraries and making sure that there is a diverse range of books in terms of author and topics. And lastly, visual art supplies. We're going to be stocking up Ms. Herity with enough materials for the next year and a half. So that being said, I am really having difficulty spending money. I don't know what to buy, and I don't know if I'm missing something. I probably have another $100,000 to spend on the school, and it's not easy to spend $100,000 on paper and pencils. So I need the SLT's help here. I don't know what else I should be looking at for our school, not only looking at this year, but also, looking at future years. Is there something I'm missing? Is there something I'm forgetting? I mean, there are little things that are going to happen where we're going to try and buy some contract with some of the systems for next year to offset the expenditures of next year into this year, like Pupil Path and Alex and things like that. But I don't know what else to buy, and I'm really having a hard time. And it's kind of comical to turn around and say that I'm having a hard time spending $100,000. So I'm asking for help here. Is there something I'm forgetting? Are there any suggestions out there? Something I should be looking at? I'm opening it to anyone who wants to jump in here.
We got to do Edmentum too.
Okay. All right. So I'm writing this down because that's going to be a substantial expenditure. So we have to find out whether or not we can actually purchase Edmentum this spring for next year.
Yeah.
Can you work on that?
The math department's still not sure whether we're going to do it, but definitely for ELA.
Okay. So tomorrow, if you can look into that, the Edmentum, the Alex, the Pupil Path, and how can we issue purchase orders for the next school year? What else, folks? I mean, is there something I should be looking at? And it could be anything, like something.
I have an idea.
Please.
Today we had Misty Copeland speak to the dancers. So perhaps bringing in some diverse speakers for the arts programs. Could be something that I don't know exactly how that works with payment, but giving the kids an opportunity to have some interesting visitors.
I like that. And probably a lot of them will do virtual meetings with our kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Lila, why don't you explain to the parents who Misty Copeland is?
Sure. I actually have some pictures of it, of the what happened also. So Misty Copeland is the
You want
first.
me to give you co-host? Is this one you want to share?
I can screen share.
Okay. I'm making you a co-host. Do I have to stop sharing before you share?
Nope.
Okay.
Steal it right away from you.
All right, steal it. Go away.
Good. Is it sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
So the dance majors, Mr. Kerr arranged for the 7th and 8th grade dance majors to meet with Misty Copeland virtually through Zoom. So she's the first African-American principal dancer in an international ballet company. So she works in the American Ballet Theater, and she just published a book called Black Ballerinas. And every page of the book is an illustration of a Black ballerina and a little bit about them. And it's a pretty interesting book. Mr. Kerr showed it to me yesterday. It's not just famous ballerinas, but it's people who are in the dance industry who, maybe are choreographers or, kind of in the backgrounds of the industry as well.
And also, I bought the class set of those books for Mr. Kerr in the dance studio.
Nice. And so you can see the Zoom there. The 8th grade dance majors were in the dance studio, and I had the 7th grade dance majors in my room. So most of the pictures are of the 7th grade dance majors. They had just watched a documentary about her and didn't know that she was coming. And so they were extremely excited. And they got a chance just to ask her questions, and she spoke a lot about her life growing up. And she grew up, I believe, in a shelter as a kid, or lived in a hotel. And someone in her middle school saw that she had talent and provided her with some formal training. So her story is pretty amazing. So there's just some pictures there. These two are holding hands in excitement the entire time. And that's her manager, Gilda, who is helping with some of the questions that we were doing. So you can see everyone there.
That's awesome.
That was it. Yeah. And then as the kids left the room, I had all of administration, every free teacher in the hallway being like, "What is going on?" They were so loud and so excited, but it was very cool.
No, Lila, that's a great idea in terms of getting and really tying it into the equity team. Could you work with the arts teachers and see, because I'm trying to figure out where we go to find these artists, like how to get in touch with them.
Yeah,
So,
I have a couple of ins with some visual artists that are pretty famous and of diverse backgrounds. I don't know of the STEM or the chorus as much, but perhaps.
And I'm sure a lot of them will do it free of charge, but I don't know if some of them require a stipend that we would have to issue a purchase order for. So these are things we should look into.
I would touch base with Sarah Khan. Maybe she knows something.
Yeah. And even if it's not, someone super famous like Misty Copeland, just having some different voices to come speak to the kids, different people in the industries could be interesting.
Okay. All right. That's a really great idea. Even if it doesn't cost us any money, it's still a great idea.
Yeah. So I'll talk to the arts teachers.
Okay. All right, cool. Any other ideas in terms of how we want to allocate the rest of these school funds?
Frank, could I say something?
Of course, it's open.
Okay. Sorry. I was just thinking about the L students. Is there anything that we can do in terms of translation interpretation equipment for the families? Do you have access to the technology for that?
No, what we've been doing is using our own personnel to do the translations. I'm putting that on the list, looking at translation equipment for the school, because I know that's pricey.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, at the point that we ever come back in person, some of the elementary schools had purchased the equipment so that when there's in-person meetings, you know, for example, if you were going to have an open house and the auditorium was going to be full, you could use this equipment to give to the families who didn't English, and then, you know, you'd get it back right after the meeting.
No, of course, of course. Okay, I'm putting that on the list. That's a good idea for a purchase, and that's
They're not
something we definitely
super
can use.
expensive. I think that's only like $5,000 or $6,000. So it's not even a lot of money, but
No,
worth
it's not,
having.
but everything helps. I mean, it's not that in terms of I'm only looking to spend money, but I want to spend it in a way that is going to make sense for us in the future. And that's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
And then the other thing is, does the STEM room need any upgrades, like 3D printers or the wood saw stations or?
Mr. Burnworth, every year, I always ask him what he needs, and he always gives me a list. So that's already something that he's starting to think about. So yeah, no, he's going to be taken care of.
Good, thank you.
Frank, it's John.
Hey, John.
Sorry, I missed a few minutes, so apologies if this is duplication. Has anyone mentioned field trips?
We can't do field trips yet.
Right. So, but in the hope. No, I mean more than that. I think isn't it now the expectation that will change? Will it change in time for the window in which the money needs to be spent?
No. That would probably be something that we'd be looking at next year, when I guess the circumstances of the pandemic change. But I don't see any field trips happening this year. Also, John, I am a little hesitant to send my kids out on a field trip simply because of transportation issues, in addition to, even if the pandemic wasn't an issue. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. I do agree with you. I am itching to get them out of the building and into a lot of the cultural institutions of our city, but we're not there yet. That's going to be something more that we aim for September 2021 for.
Roger that.
Anything else? I mean, we can spend lots of money on library books. My humanities teachers are going to kill me because they have no more storage space. Okay, I mean, I'll also put this out to the deadline, Agnes, to spend the money is, they haven't given me a deadline for procurement, but typically it's March, early March. It usually closes down. I've heard rumors that they're going to want the money spent by middle to end of February, but I haven't gotten any kind of confirmation on that yet.
Yeah, I read that too somewhere.
Yeah, but it's not. I haven't seen anything definitive, like a definitive date. But we're looking at end of February, early March. That would be the time, and we can definitely revisit this in the February meeting if there's still money left to be spent. Okay, then I'm going to get.
I had just one more thought, because
Please.
In thinking about the like the current 6th and 7th graders, is there anything that we might want to give them in terms of a summer project that could help them with their portfolios for the future? Maybe like some of the money could be spent on art supplies or materials that could be used towards creating a portfolio. I know that the teachers are working very hard to work with all of the 8th grade students, but this might be like if the kids had a project they could work on that would help them sort of propel their portfolios and their presentations,
Okay.
that that just might take some of the work off the teachers in the future, and it would give the kids something fun to do over the summer. So there might be some supplies that you could
Okay.
purchase.
That's an idea. I'll mention that to the arts department, and I will see what it is they want me to purchase for that to that end, and they'll be able to distribute it to the kids at the appropriate time. Okay, on the list.
Okay.
Frank, do
All
me a
right.
favor.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm trying to get on my phone so I can still listen in as I'm driving to my appointment.
All right. I'm letting you back in.
All right, thanks.
All right. All right. So fun stuff. COVID-19 updates / protocols. Okay. So you've all been hearing news reports about attendance waning in the public schools. We are averaging, I would say, about 20% of our student body absent on a given day this month. Now, some of it is students quarantining, but it's a very, very small amount. We probably right now have 20 students quarantining. The rest of them are, for, and understandably, parents who are concerned about COVID-19 and not sending their children to school. So we have a number of parents who are holding their children back, and I do understand. But right now we have about 20% on a given day who are absent. Now the quarantining, and there's a lot of I guess misunderstanding with regard to the quarantine. The CDC has recently dropped the time period for a person to quarantine from 10 days to 5 days. They're not showing symptoms. New York State Health Department has also adopted going from 10 to 5, not just for teachers, but also for students. The issue is the city health department has not adopted that change yet. So in terms of quarantining, we still require students to quarantine for 10 days if they have a positive test. Now, if a child tests twice negative, they can return on day 8. So that's also an option for students. But for the most part, a lot of our students are not testing prior to the end of their quarantining period and coming back early. Most of them are staying out the full 10 days. Very few of them actually go for the lab test because we have to see evidence of these 2 exams and the dates of those exams before we can actually cut the quarantine period by 2 days. But right now it still is 10 days. My thinking is within the next few weeks, the city is probably going to adopt the 5-day quarantine period. If a child is not showing the symptoms, they can come back to the building without a negative test. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we still are under the 10-day quarantine period. I know I've been getting a lot of emails even before People Path went down and also to my DOE, parents asking about this, but the city hasn't changed its guidelines yet for the DOE. So that's something that's probably going to be coming within the next couple of weeks because all the other entities have made the change. Now we're still giving out test kits to the teachers at the beginning of the week. Teachers are getting test kits and they're getting a KN95 mask as per the agreement with the city and between the city and the teachers union. And any class that has a positive case gets 2 test kits for a 10-day period. So the expectation is they do the test kit the day that they get it, and then 5 days later they take it again. So if someone so that we're not going to keep on giving test kits during that 10-day period. If there is a second child who tests positive within that 10 days, we're not giving the class another 2 test kits because they still have test kits for that period of time. We've gone through a lot of test kits. Unfortunately, with pupil path down, we haven't been able to notify the whole school community, which we're going to start doing that again. Now that we actually have access to all the parents, but that is still happening. I don't know whether or not this is going to be extended, because my understanding with the teachers part, it was only the month of January. I don't know if they're going to be extending that into subsequent months. And I don't know how the test kit policy with students is going to evolve over the next couple of months. So we're still waiting for the DOE to issue any new guidance, and with the new mayor and with the new chancellor and leadership at the DOE, I'm expecting some tweaks to be made, just don't know when. Now, recently the mayor's been talking about, and the chancellor's been talking about, a remote option. There really is not a remote option right now, the way it was last year. Teachers can be posting asynchronous assignments. They can be doing office hours. The structure of the office hours is not hard and fast. There's a lot of different options for teachers to be doing during that time period, and it's extra money on top of what the teacher normally gets paid, because it's above and beyond their work day. What we've been doing here is all the academic teachers have been giving up 2 of their preps a week, and they've been posting work onto the Google Classrooms. And a lot of the teachers have been working with students. They've been grading assignments. They've been going back and communicating with students, a lot of different ways that they've been attending to this. So what we decided here at New Voices is the academic teachers were giving up 2 of their prep periods. They were being rightfully compensated for that loss of prep time. And they've been attending to the children who are quarantined, or the children who have not been coming to school because their parents are a little concerned about sending them during this time. So we have been posting work on Google Classroom for the children. It's virtually all asynchronous, meaning no live instruction, because a lot of the teachers are during the school day, they're actually working with kids, so they can't be doing the live instruction piece. Some of our teachers are working per session after school with our recovery program, and other teachers have families and they need to get home right after the school day is over. So that's how we've been trying to piece it together, because there really isn't a hard and fast rule. It's kind of something that's been evolving, and it's something that gets negotiated with the teachers union and the Department of Education. So if anything changes, I definitely will let you know. But a lot of the news reports out there kind of suggest, well, some people are reading into it thinking like we're going to go back to last year, where we're going to have a schedule and we're going to have all these classes and teachers teaching live. That's not actually what's happening right now. Could that change? Absolutely. I just don't know what is going to be decided at the central level between new leadership and the UFT. So that being the case, that's where we are with regards to the COVID protocols and the remote teaching and so on. So are there any questions about this? I know there's a lot out there. I don't know if people had any kind of questions, any kind of concerns, which would kind of lead us
Frank,
into.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Have we had any full classroom closures?
No, we have not.
And if we did, would the class be fully remote?
Yes. According to the memorandum of the agreement between the UFT and the DOE, if there's a full class closure, the teachers would be teaching remote to all of the children because they're all remote. But because there hasn't been a full class closure, teachers are here in the building working with their students. They can't be also working online at the same time. There's no agreement to live stream classes. Actually, UFT discourages teachers from doing that, and I understand the legal implications of that, and I understand the reasoning. But no, we haven't had any full class closures. But if there was, then there would be a full remote option for that class only during that time period.
So basically, if a child was in, say, an English class, and like somehow that whole entire classroom got quarantined, aren't those kids still in those other classes? Like they're going to go to math, they're going to go to science, and they're moving as a cohort. So,
well, the English you're talking about if an English class is quarantined, that entire class, that entire cohort is gone. It's not just for English.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand, because it seems like that can work at.
Yeah, what you're thinking is if the teacher,
I don't see how that could ever work at the high school level.
No. If an entire cohort is quarantined, let's say 801 gets quarantined, they're not in the building. So those teachers have holes in their schedules because they're here if the teachers are not quarantined. So during those periods, they could be working with the children remotely because they have openings in their schedules. If this kind of works better in the elementary school where that classroom teacher teaches them virtually all of the academics. So they're not traveling. So it works a little different and a little bit easier in the elementary school, but in middle school, it's a little bit more difficult. But if a cohort is closed, they're out of the building and they are all home. So they're not going to math, they're not going to science. Those teachers then would be working remote with them during those assigned periods.
Hopefully we don't come to that.
I don't think so. Not with the new rules. I mean, no one gets the person who tests gets quarantined. The person who tests positive gets quarantined. We give out the test kits. If there are other students who test positive, then they also quarantine, but they're not quarantining the entire class. I'm sure in the elementary school, it's a little bit different. Maybe, I don't know, the kids closer together. I have no idea, but we haven't had at the middle school level, to my knowledge, in any school that I communicate with, any full class closures. Then again, I don't speak to a lot of people, but that's a different story.
Do you have an idea about how many parents signed the COVID testing consent form?
I don't have hard numbers. I could look into it.
Send that out again?
I've been sending things out. I think right before the holidays, we sent something out, and I can send out more. What I'm seeing is for every, I don't know the true numbers, but for every student that consents, I'm getting a subsequent email from another parent who's withdrawing consent. So whatever our numbers were before the holidays, I would venture to say it's a static number at this point, because some parents are, if their child has contracted COVID, they're withdrawing consent for fear that their child will test positive again within the 90-day period that they could, and then be forced to quarantine a second time. So that's kind of what I'm getting from a number of parents. But I do plan on sending out another email asking parents to consent to testing if they haven't already done so. Would have been done already last week, but we were kind of down with pupil path.
Have there been students that have had to quarantine more than once?
Yes, I've had a few students who have had to quarantine more than once.
So they basically missed 20 days of school.
In some rare cases, yes. In some rare cases, yes. But I've had children who've had to quarantine at the beginning of the year. They had tested positive. Now, that doesn't mean that they had COVID. They just tested positive. It could have been a false positive. And I've had very few, less than 5, have had to quarantine a second time because they had a second test beyond the 3-month period. But that's been rare. That's been rare, but it has happened.
I'm glad that it's less than more.
I wish it was 0. I really wish it was 0. Any other questions about COVID protocols or anything? I just wanted to give like an open forum period if there are concerns out there that we should be discussing. Okay, I love the uncomfortable silence. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Lila. Just to briefly talk about what we're doing in terms of our Equity Youth Congress, which we are very excited about, and what the equity team has done, and just to kind of keep us abreast of where we're going with this. So Lila, I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes so that you can update all of us.
Sure. So I spoke with Cherish, Ms. Gonzalez today for an update on the youth team, student diversity, equity, inclusion team. They met Friday for their first meeting. It was postponed because she was out on the day that they were supposed to meet, I think it was the week before. Essentially what they did is they went over the goals and objectives of that team, really similar to the goals and objectives of the adult version of the team, but a little bit more focused on creating a safe space among students and looking at initiatives that they can sort of implement that will impact the student body. So, building inclusivity in the school community, looking at anti-bullying, celebrating diversity, and educating the school community about diversity. The first meeting, she said, was pretty much just getting to know what the team was about and creating a common language for what diversity means and what inclusion means, and kind of getting the kids to start thinking about that. So their next team meeting, I think, is next week. And they will be discussing some of the strengths of our school and some of the weaknesses, and trying to pinpoint what they want to kind of target and work on for their year. And I think there's about 12 kids in the team. So in conjunction with that, me, Ms. Gonzalez, and Ms. Pignataro are going to be meeting tomorrow to kind of talk about how the crossover of the two teams can kind of work with each other and play off of each other's goals, and also look at the Respect for All week that's coming up and what we can do for that week. Other than that, in terms of our adult version of the team, we started to look at the data that we got from our needs assessment. And so we had a really nice conversation. A couple of you guys were there, but I thought we had a really nice conversation at our meeting last week. It was a much smaller group, and felt like the conversation was a bit more open and a bit more digging into some of the topics. So a couple things that I think came out of that, at least for me, and Agnes, feel free to add in if you want to add in, but was really a sense of kind of needing to create this sense of community, especially among the newer parents in our building, in our school. So especially among the 6th grade parents, and kind of, just increasing that sense of school pride and sense of connection, not just among parents, but also among students. We discussed maybe doing some sort of remote, Zoom type event for parents that's more social. So there were some ideas thrown around about that. And I think we're all sort of continuing to think about how we can increase that. You know, it becomes especially tough in these times where we can't have, you know, a barbecue or something like that. Agnes, did you want to add anything?
Hey, thanks, Leila. I'm listening in on a union delegate meeting, but I think what you said was great. I think we're still like talking about, you know, what we saw in the results from the survey. So hopefully we'll continue with that.
Yeah, that's the plan. I feel like we just barely touched on it. So more to come.
And I'm sorry I wasn't able to make the last meeting.
That's right. We understand you were dying.
Well, not so much dying, but I was coughing up a storm. Well, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, but you know, whatever. Got to get sick once in a while. Does anyone have any questions for Lila, and I guess also an Agnes, being that a member of the equity team, she could also answer. Does anyone want any clarity about what's going on, where we're going, where we think we're going? Okay, I love it. All right. At this point, I'm just gonna motion to end the meeting unless there's something else that needs to be brought up.
Frank, I'm so sorry. Could we spend like maybe 2 minutes just talking about like the special ed mandated services? Are you having any trouble meeting any of the mandates? Is some of the budget money, like, could we put some of the budget money towards any of that if anything's necessary? And
in terms of the mandates, we're meeting our current mandates. The federal money that they allocated us for the recovery program is to get IEP children extra services this year in an after school program to make up some of the sessions that they missed last year because of the pandemic. In terms of our mandates, we haven't had an issue with meeting them because we don't have a shortage of special education teachers this year. So if you question,
like,
if go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, I don't really know what's happening in the SETS room, but is there anything in there that?
Well, our SETS, we don't have a separate SETS room. The SETS program is pushed into the classroom. The special education teacher doesn't pull out because unless it's something that is something that you have to attend to in more private setting. My own personal belief is that the closer you get those services to the actual mainstream class, the better. So the SET services are actually happening inside the classrooms themselves.
Okay, I mean, if that's working, then great.
Okie dokie then. Any other questions before we end the meeting?
Hi, Frank, it's John.
Hey, John.
Hey, sorry, my brain's not working quickly enough. So
that's okay. I'm still like starting to kickstart mine after being off for a week.
Yeah. So this goes back to the COVID protocols, and apologies for going back around.
No, go back. Go ahead.
What's your assuming 80% attendance or 80% and rising?
Okay.
Let's hope. Is there still going to remain impetus for a remote option?
When you say impetus, what do you mean? A drive towards it, or the city?
Yeah, a drive towards it.
I believe there's always going to be a drive towards a remote option among a segment of our parent population, and now I'm talking system wide. Because there are parents who have children with underlying medical conditions or with family members with underlying medical conditions. And there'll always be a subset of our parents who are going to demand some form of remote option. I don't see that changing. I personally don't see that changing for quite some time. So I think there's always going to be that. I think, at least for the next couple of years, John,
Yep.
there's going to be parents who are definitely going to want it, because some parents are understandably concerned. And there's a lot of dueling sets of information that we're seeing in the media today about, is it a pandemic? Is it an endemic? And there's a lot of fighting going on about the science. And I don't think, until we as a country settle in on what the science really is, I don't see any of this changing right now. So yeah, I think there's going to be a push
And
towards having something for a while.
And in terms, right, so in terms of the DOE's willingness to provide one,
I think the willingness is there. It's the logistics, John. Because if you remember last year, we had a large amount of our students who were remote only. And I would say for our school, 50-50. 50% were remote, 50% were in person. That being the case, I didn't need all my teachers in person for that 50% of the kids. So half my staff went full remote, whether they had a medical accommodation or not. This year, when they didn't offer that, and the push was, and it begins at the Fed, the push is to get the children back into the school.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like, beginning with the Fed, it's kind of been dissuaded for schools to have a remote option. The push has been nationwide, get the kids back into the schools. That being the case, there was nothing allotted for a remote option. Teachers were in the building. Teachers can't be expected to teach children remotely if they're also teaching in person. And being that, let's say, the numbers being where they are, 80% of my teachers 80% of my kids here requires virtually all my teachers.
Right.
So yeah, I don't see this changing anytime soon, unless people's thoughts on the virus change. And I think that's understandable from a parent's perspective. Some parents are less concerned, some parents are more concerned because of the circumstances. So I think this is where we're going to be living for a while.
And do you have any idea of
I wanted to just share some information that on Thursday there was a meeting where the chancellor was speaking to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Committee, and he was saying that he does want to do a remote option and was seeking feedback and information on what parents experienced when we were remote that worked well in terms of curriculum and various technology. So Tuesday night, there's going to be a town hall, like kind of at the end of the CEC meeting. So if anybody wants to offer suggestions of positive things that they saw during remote learning, that could be a space to do it.
Okay, thank you for that. And also with that, then it's going to be a conversation with the teachers union, because all of this has to be negotiated between those two entities. So maybe something comes of it. John, you were about to say something before.
Yeah, I was struggling to articulate the question. I guess it's at 50. So let me try it this way: at 50-50, where it becomes, it sounds like at 50-50 for you, it's practical to run in person and remote.
50-50, the numbers would allow me to, provided there's no restriction like last year where we were only allowed to have 12 children in a classroom.
Yeah. Well, which maybe partly gets to what I'm trying to get at, which is at 50-50, when both are possible, what is the loss to the in-person cohort compared to a world where there is no remote?
Say that again. What's the what for the
What's the
in-person?
loss? What's the loss to the in-person students, other than their classmate, other the presence of half of their classmates, compared with a world where there is no remote option?
You're asking me whether or not some classes would not be given to the children.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be. Last year, with the in-person and the remote, we were able to give the children all that we offered. The issue became with regards to the arts elective that year, because we didn't want to commingle children, because we wanted to keep them in cohorts. Just in case someone tested positive when you had to close a class down. But programmatically, I would be able to offer all of the children each of the classes.
Right.
But it all depends on the parameters. Are we talking, whether or not, we're going back to a whole class gets quarantined if one person tests positive. So there are so many different logistical issues that would have to be decided on before I can truly answer that question. But mostly they would get all of their classes. They would get, their arts, their academics, and so on. But I don't think we're ever going to go back to that place. Knock on wood, God willing.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
Any other questions?
Sorry, yeah, mine was given Pupil Path's collapse last week. Is there any contingency in place for should that happen again?
You know what, John? I've been thinking about that, and I'm going to give you a mea culpa. When every year when our sixth graders come in, we have all of the parents' personal emails.
Yeah,
and with the reliance on Pupil Path, I never saw this as a possibility.
Right.
Because if Pupil Path was down, it's down for a couple hours. We move forward. We're back up and going. I don't have the 7th and 8th grade families' emails anymore, because I deleted them from the spreadsheets because didn't use them anymore. I still have the 6th grade families. The contingency one going forward is I'm never going to be deleting those emails again. That's for certain, because I was going crazy with this. I've been thinking about this, and I've been wondering, and I'm going to find out from Pupil Path, is there a way for me to download parent emails that parents have put into the system so that I can have a backup list? So that's right now my first contingency plan, to reach out to them.
I believe there is.
Okay, good. Lori just said she believes there is.
The issue was I couldn't download them because it was down. So I'd have to download them and save them. That's what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So we
weren't able to do it because we didn't have access to it.
One thing I do know, because I don't know if parents are going to have to do this, I had to put my email back into the system for my alternative email. So I don't know if parents are going to have to do this. Lori, we have to look into that, because if we have to send out an email to parents asking them to put their alternative emails back in.
I didn't do that.
You didn't? I did. Okay.
No, I stayed with schools. I also had Reese, the website guy. He put on, I'm not sure where because I didn't check it out because he just emailed me about an hour ago. All the teachers, schools emails on the website so that parents would have access if Pupil Path goes down again. Okay. Which I hope not.
I hope not again. But yeah, John, we've been moving to establishing contingency plans because we can't go through that again.
No, and I mean, not that it matters, or would even be meaningful to me, but have they said anything other than "Hi, we're back"?
No, they actually said something else. Well, in addition to "Hi, we're back," "Hi, sorry it took so long, we're back." Right. They're not telling us what happened. Right. I have my own ideas about what happened. But there was a major security breach there with Pupil Path. I have a funny feeling that they were hit with ransomware.
Right.
So because there was no way that they were down for a week and a half, almost
Right.
2 weeks,
Yeah,
and
seemed
it just been a glitch.
Yeah.
Because they changed their platform. They changed their whatever platform they were using, they changed it, and they were trying to go to a more secure setting. So
Right.
I really do think that they were breached and they were being extorted with ransomware.
Right.
But
Oh,
yeah,
George.
that's all they've told us, and
Right.
they're still bringing certain systems back up online. They're not 100% functional now. They're
No, it's
probably
not.
around 80%.
Right. Right.
Nope, the world we live in. I got hit with ransomware once before, and it was not fun. So, any other questions? Okay, folks, if no one objects, I am motioning to end the meeting so that we can go and do what else we have to do this evening and go and have some dinner. So does anyone second that motion?
I second that.
Perfect. So I will see you all in about a month, and I'll start working on this list that we developed today in terms of spending. Have a great night, folks.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Take care, John.
Bye, thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.